And Bonds hits one high. It's a dig. It is out. She is gone. There it goes. A long drive. If it stays fair, home run. Breeze hits it in the air to center. We will see you tomorrow night.
This is Take the Turn.
Welcome to the first episode of Take the Turn. I'm your host, Anthony Cafone, joined alongside my co-host, Tim Glassel. Tim, first time ever here on the stream. You ready to go? I mean, that's our sport. I feel like, I don't know about you. I know you're a baseball guy, but for me, baseball is like the number one sport in my repertoire. Watch it, love it, breathe it, and I'm ready to just finally get the chance to sit here and do a show about baseball because it's always been my dream, and I can't. I gotta know what your baseball background is too before like me and you really get into this. What's your team, Tim? Who do you root for? Are you yeah? No, I appreciate that though. I mean, there's something to be said about Mets fans. I don't hate the Mets. As a Yankees fan myself, I'm wearing the cap right now. I don't hate the Mets. The Mets are, that team that's always around. They're always going to be, popular within this New York metro area. And for Yankees and Mets fans, we shouldn't have this beef. There shouldn't be beef. We see each other how long? Four times a year? Boss, yeah. Philly. Like we should be hating those teams. Boston, Philly, those type of metro teams. No, well, we got a packed show for you today. A couple of big news in the baseball world. Trade deadline just happened last week. We're going to go over the winners and losers of that. Big news coming out of the White Sox camp. They just broke their 21-game losing streak last night in a win over the Athletics. And then, of course, we're going to talk about Freddie Freeman and what he's been going through over in L.A. with his son and how he's been able to play and really go through that. So that's our slate coming up on this introductory show. Tim, let's get right into it, and let's go right into this trade deadline. A lot of moving pieces, but to be honest, though, I really didn't see a lot in terms of, big stars getting moved. But overall, I think this was a good deadline for a lot of the good contenders who are trying to make a big push to the World Series. If you look around, Major League Baseball, a couple of big moves. Dodgers getting Jack Flaherty and really structuring up their starting pitching that's been, injured to hell and back. That we've seen Walker Buehler and Yoshinobu Yamamoto also going on the IL. So finally having a good quality starting pitcher in Jack Flaherty to help, calm those concerns, because I know it's been great in Dodgerland when it comes to hitting, but the pitching is really where the questions are asked. So where do you really see with the Dodgers and how they can really, bolster and continue to keep playing good baseball come October? And I agree with you. I think Detroit has some really intriguing young players, Torkelson, Mize, and now Tariq Skubal having a Cy Young type of season. I knew they had to get rid of Flaherty, but everybody who was really clamoring for them to trade Skubal, that wasn't going to happen. They still have 3 more years of control on the guy, and they have the ability to extend him right now because he's going to be a dominant starter pitcher for probably the next 7 to 8 years. And Detroit, I know there's not a lot of good things you could really say about the team at this point in time, but they're going to build for the future, and they're going to be ready to compete. So I like the move of not moving Skubal, but I did like the move of moving a guy who was kind of replaceable in Flaherty, getting some prospects back for him. And then for the Dodgers, like you said, this team is one couple pieces away from putting it all together, especially with Mookie Betts on the IL. You have guys like Ohtani, who's been playing at MVP form. Probably not going to win it because he's only being a DH this year, but across that lineup, they have the hitters that they need to go win a World Series. The pitching is just the problem. And Jack Flaherty's got a good mix. That fastball's electric. He's got a good slider. If he works in those 2 pitches to a good number of teams on this run to the World Series, they could absolutely win the National League. Philly's going to be probably their only problem I see as of right now. Yeah, so that was the I think probably one of the bigger moves of the trade deadline. Of course, the Yankees also getting a couple of big names and Jazz Chisholm and Mark Leiter Jr. to bolster their bullpen. I like as a Yankees fan myself. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I like these moves a lot because, of course, you saw the Yankees lineup starting to really go through the motions in the months of June and July, and you really thought that they needed some kind of boost to give this lineup a little bit of energy. And what better way to do that than a guy like Jazz Chisholm, right? I mean, one of the most electric young stars in baseball, can steal bases, can play a lot of different positions on the field. If you need him to play center field to give guys like Judge or Soto a day off, you can move him to third base like they're seeing already. He already has 1 defensive run saved in 6 games at third base, and he had never played that position before coming to New York. He's an electric player. So, I mean, I want to hear your thoughts. Yeah. I mean, and what an introductory series he had in Philly. You said 4 home runs in 2 games. Two, yeah, he had 4. He had 2 the night before, which I was actually at that game down in Philadelphia, and I saw those 2 homers, and that was an electric game. It was 12 innings and back and forth, back and forth. Great game. And then the next day, hit another 2 in the day game right afterwards. He, the moment is not big for this guy, right? I mean, he never got the chance to show it down in Miami because he was always playing for perennial 80, 90 lost teams. So, he had that one little postseason run in 2021, I think it was, or last year actually, 2023. He was in the postseason for the first time, and now you're finally going to get him to see some probably deep, meaningful baseball games in the ALDS, ALCS, and we'll see if he could really rise to that occasion and be that guy that, plays above his head in the biggest moments, and that's what a true New York Yankee really is. And I mentioned Mark Leiter before, so I'm going to go quickly into him. Electric stuff, 50% ground ball rate coming into his time now with the Yankees, was playing over in Chicago with the Cubs, And the Yankees needed some bullpen depth as well because heavens knows they definitely needed something like that. Because Clay Holmes has struggled tremendously, 5 blown saves in the month of July. And then you had other guys in that bullpen. Luke Weaver, unproven. Tommy Canley, a little inconsistent here and there. So they needed another guy in that bullpen to really keep things calm, and a good lefty like Mark Leiter Jr., who's had some really great numbers. ERA is a little high this year at a little over 4, but Matt Blake has in the past really worked his magic on relief pitchers, and it's made them a lot better than what they are. So I'm excited to see what he can really bring to the Bronx and see if he can really add to this postseason run that they're going to be trying to get into. Yeah, I mean, other, you know, notable moves that really happened over this trade deadline. You saw guys who you didn't really think were going to get moved. Austin Hayes go into Philadelphia. And then, of course, the Phillies sending Gregory Soto to the Orioles to really bolster that bullpen up. And 2 different trades that the Phillies and Mets made, sending prospects back and forth and sending 2 big-time players over in deals. And I just want to hear your thoughts, Tim, first on how these 2 teams really got to this point, because they're both contenders, right? They're both 2 teams that are at the top of their respective leagues, but they both felt the need to move some pieces in order to bolster other areas on their team. I absolutely agree with you, Tim. I think this team's got definitely what it takes to make the World Series and even win the World Series. Look at their lineup right now. If you look across the board, every guy is hitting in the 240s or better. Even guys like Brandon Marsh down low in the lineup. Alec Boehm really having a breakout season up there and leading the National League in doubles. Boehm? And no, I want to stick with Alec Boehm because I saw a post the other day. It was one of those content creators put something out, the best duos in Major League Baseball, and saw something that was like Bryce Harper and Trey Turner was at like the 6th spot, and I was like, I honestly, I'm putting Alec Boehm over Trey Turner if we're talking about the lineup there. This man's leading the National League in doubles right now. He's slugging at a crazy clip. He needs to have more acknowledgement as to why the Phillies are in the spot that they are in. And now you add a guy like Austin Hayes to the lineup who, since coming to Philly, his hard hit percentage, warning track rate, everything you want to talk about in terms of power, he's getting that ball in the air. I think he likes the Philly air. He likes being in that city. Maybe a new change of scenery as well for him because he was an all-star with Baltimore a few years ago. And then you saw the numbers start to decline. in 2023 a little bit. In 2024, he's had some good spots, but also some really slumps. So I think he needed that change of scenery to really energize into what he could really do and the potential he could really be at. Absolutely. Yeah, I think he's one of those guys that just you saw it before. He hated Philly. Those first couple of seasons he was there, he even had that one moment where he's like, "I hate this place," but he's really grown to right. It does. I mean, to play in a market like that, New York, Philly, Boston, any of these teams that have high expectations year in and year out, and you're not performing to their standards right away, it's hard to really get acclimated to that. They're let you hear it, and for Bohm finally to understand that and get back to it and not let that moment define what he was at, you got to respect the guy for that. And I think he is going to be a really good player for a really long time. No, yeah, for sure. I mean, another guy. I want to actually take this to your New York Mets because I saw something that your boy Pete Alonso said yesterday, and it really didn't keep the fans in New York really happy. He was talking about how he's on pace for 40 homers. He's been, you know, for to him, he thinks he's been hitting very well this year and not playing up to his standards. And I saw a comment section Mets fans were ripping him, and I actually want to get your perspective on that because Pete Alonso's a guy who's in a contract year, and we don't know if he'll be in Queens come 2025. No, Let me ask your opinion. Do you want Pete Alonso in Queens next year? Yeah, and he's a pure power hitter. And that's where the difference really comes in for a guy like Pete Alonso to a guy like Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge hits for contact. The home runs come and power. Like he covers the plate. He's a pure hitter. Pete Alonso just tries to get the ball in the air. No, he well the problem is also I saw like his fly ball rate is way down for a guy that's supposed to get the ball in the air. Like he's not getting that ball up to where it needs to be. It was down to I think it was like 16-15% of his at bats with balls in the air. No. Well, that's our Mets talk. Let's switch gears and move over to the other big team, not in New York, but in another big market, Chicago, the White Sox. It's small amount of wins. Oh my God, 28-68, or 28-88. I want to say 28-88 going into today. A full 60 games under 500. It's August 7th. And they just beat the A's last night to break their 21 game losing streak. It's bad, man. Like I don't think I've ever, even when the A's were having that stretch of being a terrible baseball team, and this year they're not as bad, but they're still bad, but I haven't seen a team this bad probably in my lifetime. It's just terrible. The lineup has no consistency in it. Their best hitter was Tommy Pham for a few months. You brought in a guy like Andrew Benintendi a few years ago, and he's become now one of the worst hitters in all of baseball. You had, yeah, Robert's been hurt. They haven't had that big bat in the lineup for a few months, and you have a solid pitching group. I mean, Crochet has been, one of the more elite. I don't even want to call him a starter because I don't even know what he is. A starter, long relief, what they don't even know where to put him. It's right now in Chicago they have no consistency in that lineup, and they've had a couple of the worst hitters in all of baseball play for their team this year. So when you're not scoring runs, you're not, holding teams to under 3 or 4 runs a game. You have quite possibly one of the worst constructed rosters in all of baseball, and I don't even know where they can go from here because they didn't trade Crochet, but they did trade a starting pitcher at the deadline. My mind is blanking on who they traded, But they did trade somebody at the deadline to try to get some prospects back. But right now, they're just their farm system's not to the level where it needs to be. They're going to be a bad team for potentially 5 to 10 years. Yep. Yeah, they traded Kopech. That's who I was thinking of. Michael Kopech to the Dodgers. And Dodgers got him and Flaherty at the deadline. So that's another starting pitcher that they were able to add. So they got rid of Kopech. And really, they got to find some way because no team can be that bad. I'm sorry. You can't have a team that is that bad playing in Major League Baseball because it's just pretty much a free win every time you go out. Mm. Yeah, I agree with you. I just want to talk about this because you sort of when you see those numbers, you see 21 game losing streak. They also had a 16 game losing streak earlier this season, back in May. They keep doing it every single week. You sort of root for it a little bit. You sort of like go get that loss record. I want to see it. I want to see history be made. Why not? Just in the wrong way. I mean, because right now it's August 7th, so you have to assume they probably have around 55 games left. The MLB loss record in the live ball era, I believe, is 118. So they got a good month and 3 weeks to try to accumulate 30 losses. They can absolutely pull that off. They can absolutely pull it off. So maybe we'll have a White Sox tracker going on for our next couple episodes just to see where they're at. Maybe that'll be something. How do you get back on the field every day? Like, how do you motivate yourself to want to go out and play meaningful baseball? Because there's no meaningful baseball being played. Like, how do you? Mm. So we'll give the White Sox a little bit of mercy today and end the segment right here. We're gonna move on to our final segment of the episode, and we want to give a quick shout out to one of the best first basemen of all time, Freddie Freeman. His son just recently got diagnosed with a rare neurological disorder, and Freddie had to miss a few games because of that, rightfully so, and came back the other night in the game against Philly, and you saw the whole reception he got for that, and it was nice to see because Freddie Freeman is one of the great guys in the game of baseball, and to see something that hard and and impactful happen to a guy like that, it makes you want to root for the guy even more because he truly is just a great ambassador for the game. He's the best of this modern era. I'm rooting for the guy, man. Even though I'm not a Dodger fan and I want the Dodgers to lose every single game they can, I will be rooting for Freddie Freeman as long as he is in Major League Baseball. Because that guy, yeah. No, I can't find one guy who's really had anything bad to say about Freddie Freeman around the game who's played with him, because he never causes issues. He's just always there, does his job, goes home. Respect guys like that who still continue to play baseball. But that's all the time we have for here today on the first episode of Take the Turn. I'm Anthony Cafone. That's Tim Glassel to my right if you're looking at my screen. Join us next week as we continue to talk about baseball on this great podcast.